there's a lot of misinformation out there. Not everything that is glittering is gold. And that particularly applies to audio. Everything's been already invented. And what one needs to work on is on the quality, not the quantity of materials and components. You can't improve the recording. You can only degrade it. So that's what I said earlier before. So our undertaking and what we do is minimizing the damage to original recording. And that means steer away from all the processing, steer away from all the complexity. I feel a bit sorry for those people, but eventually, hopefully, they're going to realize that complexity and therefore lower quality that comes with it is not going to bring them closer to the recorded event. We are looking to achieve an elegantly simple circuit design to maximize the musical pleasure. It's a long and costly process. It's much easier to do the complex or do the minimalist. But arriving at the formula that gives us the optimal results, that is actually, I believe, is the purist approach. Generally, the purist, what some people think a purist approach is basically having least amount of everything. So having minimalist approach. Then there is the complex approach, where whatever is being used, nobody cares how many materials and components and parts are being used in the circuit design, they all belong there. That's the complex approach. We do neither. We do neither the minimalist approach nor the complex approach. An outcome of a purist approach is an elegantly simple design, which is neither overly complex nor overly simplistic. There's a problem with that. So with the perception of the public, how they see that they look at the product that has fewer components in the circuit design, and it looks like kind of simplistic to them. So they automatically start thinking that, well, there's less parts, so it means, they're saving on parts. In reality, it's quite the contrary. It's not about how many materials you have or how little you have. It's the quality, not the quantity that matters. Having something that is elegantly simple, that is actually the costliest, the most difficult, labor-intensive, and achieving something like this takes forever. And that's what we have in our circuit designs. If one looks into the complex approach, just have a look at any of these computer motherboards. One will find there a lot of SMD parts, a lot of resistors, capacitors, inductors, so on and so forth. And they're very tiny and it's heavily populated. Well, that's a computer. It's made in mass. It's certainly not made having the highest performance in music in mind. So it's made to be fit for one task, so for computing power. I would argue that these boards can't be expensive. The only cost is to develop them. So that initial cost is very high. But the cost of production is very low because these boards are soldered by machines, by robots. No human being is going to solder all these SMD materials as SMD components. And so all boards populated with those miniature components are low cost by definition. If you see SMD components, be sure that majority of them being machine soldered. What I explained it in some of the videos earlier, that every material component is far from perfection. They're imperfect in the first place. The more imperfect materials and components one integrates into a circuit, the more they tend to mask the crucial low-level musical information. And the more you have, the more devastating the result is. I think a great analogy would be if one thinks about a window, a glass. So if one has one glass, you can see it through. But if you put several other layers of glass in parallel to that glass, the more glass you put in parallel, and the lower the quality of that glass, so the less light comes through each and every layer of glass, the less light will end up on the other side of these glasses. The dirtier and lower quality of glass one parallels, the more distorted and the least clear the picture becomes. So this very much the same happens in audio. And this is very well known with the lenses in photography and videography. The highest quality lenses are the prime lenses. The reason why the prime lenses are produce much crisper and higher resolving pictures is because they're simpler in their construction, because they use a higher quality glass in their lenses. And that's why they give better results, as opposed to the zoom lenses, which have a lot of moving lenses, and they have more lenses. They are more compatible with different focal lengths, but because they are more versatile and have adjustable focal lengths, the quality of the overall result decreases. If you use more components than necessary, the more distorted and the least clear the picture becomes. So if one is looking to achieve the maximum performance, one needs to remove all this versatility. So the circuit performs much better, one gets much better results if one goes into the minimalistic approach direction. It's a huge difference between having just one capacitor or one resistor, or having 10 of these capacitors and resistors in series or in parallel, depending what the circuit is. There's so much more loss when you have more of these components than having just one. So the more features are there, that means you have to make the circuit design more complex. If the circuit design gets more complex, it automatically is more detrimental to the outcome, so to the performance of the reproduction of our precious music containing signals. So the signal gets always more degraded the more complex a circuit becomes. So that's very important to understand. So if one looks at an audio product and the circuit board is heavily populated and is very complex, be assured that the outcome can be very positive when it comes to the musicality or to the signal that is being passed through these components. There's also a possibility that something may be added, not just removed, but added, that was not part of the original recording or the original signal. So we have both possibilities, something being removed and something being added. We, as music lovers and audiophiles, it's not in our desire to have either. You don't want to have something being added or something being removed. We want to listen directly to the source, to the recording. That's the only way we can be connected emotionally and spiritually to the recording.